What's up, guys? I'm Chris, and today you're watching a magic review of Hacked by Kaleb Wade.
Spooky, right? Today we're doing a magic review on the new book coming out from my friend Kaleb Wade. Intro, just keeping things in style, right? But anyway, so this book is being released. It's called Hacked, and I'll get into what that is in a moment here. But one thing that I do want to mention is that this is a limited release. So limited edition release. I got to turn these lights on up here. 1 second. All right, so this is a limited edition release. There are only going to be 200 of these printed. After that, it's gone. So if this is something that interests you, which if you're a mentalist, I think that there is a lot of value in this release, then I would pick this up before they are gone. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do like the video, comment any questions. I'll answer those as I can. And then don't forget to join the Chris Edwards Magic Secret Access group on Facebook. A lot of good discussion, as well as some unlisted videos that I don't upload to the general public. All right, so the review. I don't have the physical copy to show you yet. So Kaleb has sent me a PDF version of this to read over and review. The physical copy is on the way, but I can still go over everything from the PDF, so we'll just talk about what that is. So what is Hacked? So in short, Hacked is a add a number divination routine, right? But it's so much more than that. What Kaleb has done here is he has taken a traditional add a number routine and he's put his spin on it. So anybody who has any of Kaleb's previous releases know that, even if he takes something that has been around, he makes it original to him and he adds his subtleties and, basically just going over the method here. It's so much more than your traditional add a number divination routine. So what can you do with Hacked? I'm just going to read off the kind of ad that has been put together. So with Hacked, you can freely have two sets of... Okay, so first off, actually, I'll kind of go over the first basic routine and then just kind of touch on some of the subtleties that he's added in here for added deception. Basically, there's no way to backtrack this. So he has somebody who is selected as a judge, and they sign their name at the top of the pad. And then he goes around to 6 different audience participants and have them write down a random number, right? Now, maybe the number is significant to them. Maybe it's completely randomly generated, but he has 6 participants write down numbers. From there, the pad goes back to the judge. Now, there's no switch here, okay? This is what's nice because the audience, they won't be able to backtrack this, right? The pad goes back to the judge, and now I'll talk about what you can do with Hacked that you can't do with other add-a numbers. So with Hacked, you can freely have 2 sets of numbers deleted by a participant and always arrive at the forced total. So after you have your participants, 6 people write down numbers, it goes back to the judge will cross out 2 of the numbers. Okay, and then you can display the participants' numbers for everyone to see. So that's something there that in having displayed the numbers, nobody expects a switch, right? And that's huge. From there, you can have the numbers hacked, hence the name, which just means that the numbers can be mixed so that, you can state that you've had random numbers generated, you've had the judge, the participant, whatever, delete numbers, and then you can also mix the numbers and you'll always arrive at your forced total. Again, you have the cards signed, right? The pad signed, so that shows again, no switch. There's no stooges, easy to do, self-working. So, if that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what will. Now this is, I've actually closed my mentalism show and my adult show. I've even done it at small ages shows with a add a number effect. Now, my version is very similar to one of the routines in here. And all I can say is that, for example, I did a theater show in October, and I still have people talking about it today, specifically my closing effect, which is an add a number effect. You'll find one very, very similar in here. However, with mine, without giving away other methods, okay, with mine, I had the numbers generated by a app, right? I'm not going to say which app because I don't want to expose anything too much, especially if anybody who watches me comes onto my channel and sees this, right? So I have the numbers generated through an app, and then I have other forcing apps that I use. Now, with that said, I'm not using that anymore. I'm using this. I'm still going to likely have the same type of effect, but from now on, I'm using hacked as my way to achieve that outcome. And mainly, it's just, it looks way more fair. There's no technology involved. And then there's absolutely no way that this can be backtracked because everything is done completely out in the open. It's as transparent as it can be, and you'll still always arrive exactly where you want to. So that's what hacked is. We'll get into some more of the routines here in a little bit. What do you get? You're going to get a physical book, okay? And there's a ton of stuff in that book. The quality, I don't know the quality of the book, but I imagine it's going to be good quality, right? It's a book. I do believe that it is a hardcover, so that's nice. It's I think this will end up being somewhat of a collector's piece because between what Kaleb has released and this and his upcoming book, I think Kaleb's going to be a name that you hear a lot when it comes to mentalism. And this is limited to 200 copies. The difficulty level, let's just go over that really quick. As long as you're following the steps, which anybody can do, it's extremely easy. Everything about it is easy, right? Like this is self-working. There's not much. There's really nothing that you can mess up. Okay. He has looked after all of that. So regardless of what routine you go with, you're still, it's all going to be very, very easy for you. And there's really no way that this can not work. Angles, setup and reset. So to construct the pad, right, I don't even really want to say that this is a DIY project because it will cost you next to nothing and it will take about, I don't even think it would take 5 minutes, but it doesn't take up much time at all. It's so simple to make and to do. The method, just going over one of the methods, I'm not going to say what it is. I really can't talk methods at all here because there's one main method and then there's a number of different kind of smaller methods or principles or subtleties, right? And I can't really name off any of them, but each one, you only need one to do the effect, but each one adds an element of deception, right? Kaleb has designed this so that it can't be backtracked. So all in all, the setup is very, very quick. Reset would also be very quick, and you can set this up in multiples so that it can be an instant reset if you need to, but I mean, you're probably only going to be doing this once for one audience, but I mean, you have options. So your angles with this are really good. I don't think there's anything that you have to worry about. There is one move, but it will go completely unnoticed with misdirection and to where your angles may be a concern. You would also just angle your body in a certain way to completely eliminate any worries of angle. Pocket space. So this was designed to be a parlor or stage routine. Now you could construct a smaller version of this, right? Maybe you want to do this at an event where you're doing maybe table hopping or a walk around, as long as you have somewhat of a large crowd. And again, this is talking about the main routine here. The bigger the crowd, the better. But with that said, you can do this for 10 people. And there is a version in here called Hacked Down, which has you covered there. It's made for smaller crowds or audiences. Is it a worker, and who would use this? So this is definitely something that I think anyone who reads this is going to put into their working set, whether it's stage, parlor, close up with a decent size audience, right? There really are no limits there. I'm kind of trying to cover all of the questions here because I do want to dive into the contents a bit more here and kind of discuss at a bit more length and detail without giving too much away. And then price on this. So the price on this is £65. I always mess that up and say euros because the little pound symbol to me looks like an E. So I think euros, but it's not euros, it's pounds. So this is £65. And if you use the discount code Chris666, 666, you're going to get $66.06 off. I'm kidding. That would make the book free. You'd actually get a refund. It's going to take $6.66 off. Use that code Chris666. I believe it's all lowercase. I will put that in the description, just making sure it's either lowercase or uppercase. Like I said, I think it's lowercase. I'll also direct you on where to order this in the description. So I think before going into any pros and cons, I'm going to kind of go over the contents of the book. So I have some notes here because it's not a long read. I think it was something like 150 pages, give or take. Took me about an hour and a half to read it in its entirety. So it's not a long book, but it is packed with so much material, so much information, and a lot of really great suggestions, advice, subtleties by Kaleb himself. So great thinker, very, very original, and putting his spin on everything. Like, he has a lot of knowledge and creativity when it comes to what he puts out. I already talked about Hacked, the original kind of most basic routine. I will mention that in this book, there are 20 plus routines developed from this method, as well as a bunch of ideas and just things that you will use, little things that you will use in other aspects of your mentalism because they're so good. So let's go to, I talked about Hacked. Hacked Down is just the hacked effect for a smaller audience. And then the third routine, I'm not going to say the number because it's a number that we know. It's not 1089, okay, but it's something like that, okay? It's a number like that allows you to be a lot more deceptive. Using this version, it allows, the numbers to be generated, deleted, and then completely mixed up to still come out to your desired outcome. To which Kaleb has a really good revelation that is basically an open prediction of sorts. Like, the reason I say open prediction, it's not your traditional open prediction where you make notice of it in the beginning and say, here, I have a prediction. It's an open prediction in that it's out in the open. It's actually handled, and in the end, it's used as a kicker ending revelation that completely blows people away. So that's why I say open prediction. That's not maybe the best term, but I explained it, so hopefully that makes sense. And then there is a effect called the awesome hack. This incorporates another, I don't want to say method. It's not a method, but no, I can't go into this too much. It incorporates something else that's free. Okay, it's free, so you don't have to worry about paying for additional props or supplies or anything like that. It's free, but it allows you to do something so that you can make your force number unique. Okay, and there's a lot of ideas in the book to make it unique, meaning Maybe you want your force number to reveal a date. Maybe you want it to reveal a word, okay? Because that's actually what I use as my closer in the show, is that my random generated number also reveals a word of something else that was forced, right? And it all kind of ties in together for one huge finale. So again, I can't say too much, and I apologize for that. I hope that I'm still giving you some information, just very candid. What I can say is that this edition is really cool. It opens a ton of doors. So basically, the sky is the limit when it comes to your creative mind, but he does direct you in where to go and how to do that to come up with whatever you want to that customizes this specific routine and effect to you or your audience. Okay, so those are the routines in this book that have to do with numbers. Okay, so again, I've kind of described 4 different routines, but when you take all of Kaleb's ideas in there, as well as different revelations, they actually make up completely different routines than the original ones in the book. So that's why I say that there's so much more than what I'm just describing. Now, after that, you're going to get some bonus routines, and there's a lot of really good stuff in there. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with numbers, so that's what I mean. You can take this principle and this method and apply it to other things to still do effects similar to it, but completely different at the same time. And this is also where you'll read about some of Kaleb's additional subtleties and things that he says in his show to make some methods that we may already know way more deceptive. So, for example, okay, and I'm not going to give anything in this book away, but in some book tests, right, we have to do some fishing with certain methods, right? Just as an example, there's one thing in here, and there doesn't have to be any fishing for any of this, but if you want to do certain things, then there may be some little fishing techniques here and there. But again, not much, if any. It depends on what you're doing with it. But I just have to say that so I can give my example, because in this, if we're doing a book test and we have to fish for something, right, we have to ask a question. Now, just one example of Kaleb's thinking is that in doing this, to get a specific letter or whatever it is that you need to get, he has a subtlety in here that I'm going to apply to everything when it comes to fishing for a certain piece of information. Okay, it's brilliant, and it makes more sense than anything else I've ever heard as far as justification and motivation for a method like this goes. And this is just one very, very small piece of this book. So it's things like that where I think the value definitely exceeds the initial method and routines that you get in this book. It's all the little things like that where you go, wow, that's so clever. I'm going to use that in this, and this, right? Let's get into the bonus routines. So the bonus routines, they allow you to divine words, objects. So we get to stray from numbers if we want to, right? We do this with words, objects. We can also use this in a sense, I don't want to call it a peek, but you're able to obtain information that, in other words, you might need to peek in other kind of routines and methods. With that said, what's awesome about this is that, we all have different methods and ways to peek information, right? Whether it's peek wallets, impression pads, electronic devices, you name it. But what I love about these bonus routines when it comes to divining words and objects. So basically, you hand the pad to a participant who we'll call a judge, right? They write their name on the pad, and then it gets passed around to 6 different people where they have thought of a word, they write their word down. You never have to touch the pad again. You'll pass the pad back to the judge to have them look at a word and think of a word. But that's why I didn't like to use the word peek, because in handing it back to the judge, you will honestly never look at the pad, right? So we're not actually peeking any information. You're able to divine the word. Kaleb has a bunch of different ideas and revelations in here for the words and things like that. So it's really awesome that he's combined the original hacked method and routine to now incorporate words, objects, things like that. So there's like drawing duplications. There's so much that you can do. That's kind of the first bonus routine. And the reason that I don't say the name is because it is a set of initials, because you're going to use a principle that a lot of you may be familiar with, and I just don't want to tip or expose any methods here. But what's great about these bonus routines is they still follow the hacked methodology and all the subtleties. So with these words, you're still having words deleted. It gets very, very open and transparent. The audience can see all the words, right? Obviously, you aren't going to see the words because it wouldn't be that impressive if you're divining a word that you can see. But what's nice is they can see everything. Second bonus routine is a prediction style effect. And actually, in the first bonus routine, there's the word divination, right? And if you want to take it a step further, then you can also show that you predicted the word in advance. So I didn't mention that, but that is also an option for the first bonus routine. And then the second bonus routine, that one I'd say is more of an open prediction, because you do call out attention to a prediction that you have made, right? And then, you reveal your prediction in the end through the entire process. And then there's a kicker ending there where you can have multiple audience members up on the stage holding something, and when it gets turned around, those 5 different audience members have something that end up turning into the prediction or matching the prediction. Again, sorry, I know I'm being very vague and candid here, but I'm trying to describe things as best I can without giving too much away, because honestly, I think you should just purchase this and get all of the information that it includes. And finally, the last bonus routine is called objection. So this one, rather than using numbers or words, this uses audience generated objects. Okay, so you have the audience generate the objects, you have somebody remove a couple objects, and then you have a process of elimination that's extremely fair. It comes down to one object, to which you show that you made a prediction. Okay, but there's more than that. You had predicted the general object in its most basic form, and then there's a kicker to where you have placed wherever you want that object, that actual real object, to which it can be even more descriptive. So say your object is a guitar, right? Not only will you reveal the guitar, but you would reveal the brand of the guitar as well, right? Just to kind of bring it down to be even more exact. So those are kind of my best ways to describe the routines included in this book. But on top of those 7 routines, Kaleb's also given you a bunch of ideas to tie into each routine and a bunch of different revelations, and so that it comes out to be like 20 plus or maybe more. And by putting a little bit of your own creative thought in, you could just come up with an endless list of things that you want to do, all based on this specific method and the principles and subtleties tied into it. I've tried to do my best here to give you guys as much information and an idea of what you're purchasing. I kind of had to do a review like this with Prodigy Beak, where I couldn't say too much, so I just tried to describe things as best as I could. And that's the thing with this, is I love the method. I love all the subtleties. I love all the routines and ideas in it. I can just go to positives and negatives, because right now there's absolutely no negatives, right? Anything that I've maybe thought of being a negative with, like an add a number routine, I can't with this, because Kaleb's taken every one of those things that I would have said, ooh, maybe that's a bit obvious, or maybe the audience will think this, or maybe they'll think there's a switch. He has taken all of those things and he has made it so that it can't be backtracked. There's nothing the audience can come up with that would be a realistic way of how this all works out. The positives, I think, I'd just be repeating myself a whole bunch if I listed all the positives like I have throughout the review. Very inexpensive, easy to do, easy to construct, pack small, plays huge, right? You can do this for 10 people or you can do this for 10,000 people, right? And you're going to get extreme reactions. And even though I haven't performed Kaleb's version of this yet, I perform a version of this all the time. Closer of all my shows, and it gets huge reactions. Now, if I tie Kaleb's method into this and I perform it that way to come to my outcome, it's only going to be stronger. So I can attest to the fact that this routine style type thing in general plays huge, and people will remember you for it. Get this while you can. So with that, I will leave a link in the description so you can go check this out for yourself. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. You will use this, and you will use the contents in it in a lot more of your stuff too. So take the plunge. So with that, thanks for watching. We will see you at the next review.